trouble, 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 trouble.
What's going on, ladies and gents, viewers of this video, whether on YouTube, Facebook, subscribers, or viewers of it? I welcome you to the Impact Wrestling / Global Force Wrestling, whichever brand they're going to go, whatever name they're going to use. The Slammiversary 15. This is just literally minutes after the pay-per-view just ended, and I thought it was a really good pay-per-view. I think from the top to the bottom, they put on a show. When you're doing a pay-per-view, you want to put on a good matchup. It went from 8 to 11. I thought it was really good. I had a chance to watch it. Here are the results from that show, and I'll give you my opinions of them. We had the four-way matchup, the tag team matchup for the Impact / Global Force tag team titles, which we know LAX were the champions. Well, guess what? LAX retains. Yes, I thought this was a really good matchup. All the tag teams put on some really good performances. You know, it had the crowd into it. They were chanting back and forth. There was, but when it really came down to it, LAX basically had the numbers game. We see Diamante She appeared a couple of times trying to interfere throughout this matchup, and you knew that was going to be in the place because you know at LAX they're going to do whatever it takes to win, and numbers is one thing they had. A couple times where Diamante, where she actually got a little bit of wrong medicine, where she tried to do a Hurricane Rana off the side of the ring apron, and she got caught, and she got thrown onto a couple of other competitors on the outside. So she got a little bit of wrong medicine, and she's been known to do that, interfering in some of the matches that LAX has had. Like I said, really good matchup. LAX ends up winning and hitting the street sweeper for the win. They retain the unified tag team titles and move on. So congratulations to LAX. I think I had them picked to win in my prediction show. Up next, we have the grand champion Moose. He tag team along with D'Angelo Williams against taking on Eli Drake and Chris Adonis. Now, this was, mind you, D'Angelo Williams' first time in a ring. And, folks, he done a really good job. I was surprised at how well he carried himself in the ring. He did really good with his performance. And I was, with the moves. And they were stating earlier in the pay-per-view how one of the trainers said he's one of the most naturally gifted athletes that he's been in a ring to be able to be in a wrestling ring to participate. So if he doesn't sign in the off season, he may could start his at TNA or Impact Wrestling or Global Force, whichever they're going to be called. And I'll get on to that in just a minute. But they look really good. Eli Drake and Chris Adonis helped him out in the ring. They sold the moves. To make him look good. I think he put on a good performance. And, Moose and D'Angelo Williams basically won the matchup, which is another prediction I know I had chose. But actually D'Angelo did hold up his end of the bargain. They did try the spot where he was going to dive onto Eli Drake when they had the table set up on the outside, which D'Angelo went a little bit too far, but he landed on him. But the table itself didn't break, but they still got the pin anyway. And then to make it men's right, they ended up bringing Eli Drake back out, and they ended up putting him through a table anyway. So he did go through the table one way or the other, but D'Angelo Williams did a really good job. He looked really good in the ring, and it being his first time out. So I thought that was a really good matchup there happening. Now this was interesting. Next up we have the strap match. EC3 taking on James Storm. Now James Storm pretty much dominated a lot of this matchup, which I expected to happen considering what EC3 has been putting him through over the last few weeks. And there was times where EC3 was hanging James Storm by the strap. James Storm beat EC3 32 times with the strap while he was handcuffed, because remember EC3 had the handcuffs out, but James Storm ended up putting EC3 in the handcuffs, and finally the ref got the key from around EC3's neck and got him out. Now what was weird was after that event happened, James Storm got out of a move, but then all of a sudden he collapsed in the ring. And I saw the referee talking EC3. I think they don't know what happened. And he was out. And then EC3 hit him in a move and pinned him. And James Storm looked like he was just dead weight, like he wasn't helping himself roll over or anything to get the pin. EC3, of course, got the pin. And when he left, and the referees and some of the medics and stuff, and it took a little while in there checking James Storm out. I mean, of course, the good thing was he was able to walk out under his own power after a few minutes, but it took him a little bit of a few minutes to get James Storm looked at, because he didn't look that, to me, it appearing to the eye, that didn't look like it was something that was supposed to happen. So hopefully on my next Impact Global Force, whatever it's going to be, video, I'll have an update for you and tell you what happened when we get to the episode, the upcoming episode. So EC3 won that matchup. Up next, now this by far to me was the funniest match of the night. We had JB and Joseph Park taking on Scott Steiner and Josh Matthews. And mind you, Matthews was running all around. Matthews, which we know was a former wrestler, did a few good moves. But this was funny. This was reminiscent of them going out of the arena and driving. Kind of reminds you of remember the decay or delete and the final total deletion and all these where they would go out and drive around. Well, this was funny because we got to one point where Scott Steiner was chasing JB out and Joseph Park. And so whenever they're running out, JB and Joseph Park get in around a corner and shoot Scott Steiner and Josh Matthews with a fire extinguisher. Because he's chasing them on a cart. Both Steiner and Matthews are in the cart. Then they get into a vehicle, which is the same dude, if you remember back when they had Decay or Delete, that drove the vehicle, and that was like, and also at Total Nonstop Deletion, the same dude was there for the vehicle. And they took it from him, and they were chasing JB and Joseph Park around. JB ends up running to a swimming pool where he and Josh Matthews are going at it. Scott Steiner and Joseph Park are going at it off to the side, and we see Matthews and JB fighting in the swimming pool. All of a sudden, you see a shark fin, and I think everybody kind of knew what it was, and it ends up it was Shark Boy. He bites Josh Matthews on the butt, which was so funny. So JB gets out. Then Josh Matthews says, "What bit me in the butt?" So then Shark Boy comes out, and he's after them. Well, we see Scott Steiner, and he throws Joseph Park into this wooden, I think there's this wooden door or part. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, folks, we hadn't seen in a long time, the Father James Mitchell, remember, was the manager way back when with Abyss, and he comes and he takes the mask of Abyss and he hands it to Joseph Park. And he just starts laughing, and the crowd's going wild because they remember Father James Mitchell. It had been a long time since I'd seen Father James Mitchell come back. So those were two returns of Shark Boy and Father James Mitchell. So we see him cut back to the arena, and we see Steiner, and we see Matthews in putting the Steiner recliner on JB. Poor JB's in the ring. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Father James Mitchell comes down. Well, lo and behold, behind them is Abyss, the monster. Abyss comes back. He pours the tacks down, drops Matthews onto the tacks. JB jumps off the top rope, lands on Matthews. He's got tacks in his hands, and we end up getting the pin. Josh Matthews gets pinned by Abyss. 1, 2, 3, JB and Joseph Park / Abyss pick up the win, which I thought was so funny. I wasn't expecting Abyss to make his appearance back so soon, but glad to see him back. And that was a really funny segment, folks. Again, Shark Boy at one point comes out there and he ends up trying to fight, but then Steiner beats him up and throws him out. But it was just funny seeing Shark Boy back out there. It was pretty cool, though. But good matchup here. Side note, Mackenzie Mitchell looked stunning tonight. Very, very beautiful. I mean, really, folks. But anyways, we're going to take a little pause here, and I'm going to and I'll get right back, and we'll finish this up and round it up. So be right back. And welcome back, folks. We come to the Full Metal Mayhem matchup. This is between two couples, two former best friends that were former tag team champions together. Davey Richards gets hurt. Eddie Edwards goes on to a singles career while he's out, becomes the Impact Wrestling heavyweight champion during that time, comes back. Angelina has gotten to the head of Davey Richards. Davey has turned on Eddie. Now the wives are involved with it, which brings us to this mixed tag team match, Full Metal Mayhem, and they went right at it at the beginning. I thought this was a good match for an intergender or mixed tag team match. Both husbands and wives worked well together. It wasn't a lot of singles, the guys fighting, women fighting. It was like they each were helping each other out with one another. I thought that was good chemistry and good teamwork that they put into this matchup. At one point, Angelina Love got her nose, she was bleeding from her nose. So they took at one point where Alicia and Eddie had taken a garbage can and they both hit kendo sticks against it. We've seen Alicia get hurt. They climbed up to use ladders. They did whatever they could. I thought this was a good matchup. I like I'm saying, overall, I thought it was just because of the chemistry. It was good to see a lot of 2-on-1 or 2-on-2 rather than one-on-one matchups. Usually a lot of times when you have a mixed tag team, that's what you have. But both wives helped their guys at whatever they could. Whenever Eddie would go up the ladder, Angelina would do what she ever could to prevent that from happening. So the women stood in there. I thought this was a pretty good matchup. And the ending, but we see basically Eddie Edwards and Alicia end up winning this matchup. Thought it was a pretty good matchup. And like I said, folks, this hopefully will kind of subside the rivalry, maybe, with this kind of matchup. Usually an ending of this, we'll wait and see. Maybe the feud will carry on. Up next, this is a 2 out of 3 falls. You have your X Division championship. You have the current champion, Sanjay Dutt, taking on the former champion, Low-Ki. This was a good matchup. Sanjay basically dominated round 1, but it was Low-Ki basically that won round 1. Round 2 kind of went a lot quicker, or second fall, should I say, kind of went a little bit quicker, and Sanjay Dutt won basically that one. And then we see another good matchup where the guys get together at the end, and they're just a no-holds-barred. You see Low-Ki taking where he pretends he hurt his ankle at one point, and he ended up taking his jacket off, and, he took one of his gloves off for his hand at one point. But Sanjay Dutt ends up hitting like a reverse double stomp into the corner. 1, 2, 3. Sanjay Dutt is still your X Division champion. So these guys put on a good matchup, which 2 out of 3 falls. The initial beginning of the match was good. The second fall was kind of quick, which you would figure that to happen. But they ended up, I think, on a pretty good note. Both guys kind of put it out there. The crowd, like I said, folks, these crowds were actually into the matches. They were kind of split, basically, most of the matches that came out there. And so this was a good matchup between these two. We have come winding down to our last 2 matches, which are both unifying matches. We have the Sienna, which is the Global Force Wrestling Women's Champion. She's taking on the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Champion, Rosemary. This was a good matchup. Both of these ladies are very athletic. I like Impact/Global Force's women knockouts division, and I thought they did a really good job with it. And so there was a lot of going back and forth with Rosemary. Rosemary is very athletic. Lauren Vanessa and KM came out at one point and tried to interfere in the match. So then Sienna sends KM to take Lauren Vanessa out to the back. So then it comes down to they're going back and forth, and then the ending comes is when Laura Vanessa goes out there and tries to interfere in the match. Allie comes out with a kendo stick. She chases Laura Vanessa around, and she ends up they go back up the ramp. Rosemary gets ready for the mist, but we see Sienna's ready for it. Sienna actually covers her mouth up, so that acid, that mist, whatever, it's starting to really affect Rosemary because she's not able to spit it out. So then we see Sienna, because Sienna has her from behind. So then we see that it's hurting Sienna's hands because she's literally holding that mist and whatever in her hands while she's holding over the mouth of Rosemary. So then Rosemary goes to put the red wedding on her, and then Sienna ends up raking the eyes, which has the acid on it. It allows Sienna ends up to hitting the move, a submission on Rosemary. Rosemary has no choice. She taps. You have a unified Global Force Wrestling Women's / Impact Knockouts champion, Sienna. And the beautiful Gail Kim Hall of Famer came out there. At the beginning, she showed up both belts, tried to shake both hands. Sienna didn't want to, and Rosemary, she shook her hand, but she like spit in her hand and then shook her hand, and just, I guess, Gail Kim looked like she was ready just to go ahead and get on out of there. So that happened before. Now we come to the main event for tonight. This is for the Global Force Wrestling Heavyweight / Impact Heavyweight Championship. You have your GFW Heavyweight Champion Alberto El Patron taking on Impact Heavyweight Champion, the Walking Armageddon, Lashley. We had American Top Team come out. King Mo was in the corner of Lashley. We had Alberto El Patron come out, and his dad and his brother, with his dad being in his corner. That would come to play in some of the events later on in the matchup. Jeff Jarrett came out before the matchup and thanked everybody, and he told them, that he was appreciative of what they did, and he said that he hoped that Bobby and El Patron could put on a really good match because the people that deserved it. So I thought they did a really good match, really good matchup, and a good setup for that leading into the matchup. We get into the matchup. It's going back and forth. Both guys, we see King Mo try to get involved at one point with a chair. We've seen his dad, El Patron's dad, at one point, pointing at King Mo. He ends up kicking King Mo between the legs. When King Mo tried to grab Alberto El Patron when they both were down on the outside, this makes Lashley mad. He shoves Lashley a couple times, a couple near falls. We've seen awesome power of Lashley at one point. El Patron put him in that cross arm bar, and he lifts El Patron up and power bombs him down. We also see too at El Patron that he gets out of his own arm bar that was set in by Lashley. So this was a good matchup. A spear by Lashley that he couldn't win with that. He got a 2 count with that. He was unbelievable. What happened? But I thought this was a really good, really good back and forth matchup. And then we seen when Lashley went out again, was chasing and pointing at El Patron's father. And then we see basically El Patron, once Lashley gets back in, we see Alberto El Patron hit the double stomp in the corner. Pin, 1, 2, 3. El Patron is your unified champion. He's got both belts in the ring. Jeff Jarrett hands him both belts. They all come out on the stage that are still left there, and they're applauding El Patron. And we have the wrestling presidents of Impact and Noah and AAA, Lucha Libre out there, and they're all clapping. And so this was a really good pay-per-view. El Patron celebrates on the ring post, holding both belts up. Thought this was a good matchup, and I thought it really come out really well. So that was the ending of the pay-per-view. I hope you folks enjoyed it. Until I come up with the next video, like I said, hopefully I'll keep you updated on James Storm and what his condition was when we do the next edition of Impact / Global Force Wrestling. And the reason why, folks, I've said that is because Impact Wrestling Anthem acquired Global Force. But Jeff Jarrett, the news is that Jeff Jarrett's going to rebrand Impact Wrestling as Global Force Wrestling. However, the name of the show is still going to be Impact. So I don't know if it's going to be GFW Impact, if that's what it's going to be, if that's what they're going to call it, or they're just going to say Impact, or how they're going to do with the belts. I guess they're going to make either new belts combined or just get rid of the other ones. But I hope you've enjoyed my video. And until the next one, like I said, if you like it, give me a like, thumbs up, and comment if you have any comments you want to say in the description in below. And subscribe to my channel, share to others, tweet it out. I'm trying to get as much as I can and put out good wrestling content. So until next time, with Pro Wrestling Unleashed, this is Bill Mike saying, take it easy. Yeah.